Up to those moments, I don't even think I had known myself outside of grief. I think I've been grieving for as long as I can remember. I just didn't know what it was.
I used to go through that whole 11 and a half months, almost feeling like my son was tainted because everybody's touched him but me.
I can honestly tell you that I am physically here. Hear me well. I'm physically here because he stepped in at a point in my life where I questioned it.
I have attempted suicide.
But I also felt like no one understood the pain that I was going through because of the guy that told me he loved me, he would do anything for me, could not give up a bottle.
Standing ovation, man, for my guy, Reggie. Come on, man. Come on, y'all. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, man. Come on, man. Soak this moment in, baby. Soak this moment in, baby. Come on. Come on, man. Reggie Ford, you that dude, man. You that dude, man. You that dude, man.
This is gonna be maybe an emotional night. Maybe it's hopeful and liberating. Maybe it's something that you've never experienced before in your life. But I really want to introduce myself and vulnerability muscle. So my name is Reggie D. Ford, if y'all don't know. Nashville native, grew up out east, and all of my life has been here. And my life has been a roller coaster of amazing things and some bad things and just what life is. And one thing that I have found in my life recently is that vulnerability has allowed me to see things and see life in a totally different way and liberated me from a lot of the pain that I lived with and suffered with through a big part of my life. Because in my eyes, vulnerability is the opposite of the shame that we carry. The shame that we carry behind our stories, the shame that we carry behind the things that have happened to us, the things that we didn't have any control over. But when we're able to be vulnerable and take control over that story and that narrative and really tell it from our perspective without the shame, without the judgment, without the criticism, then we get to own that and rewrite our narrative. And so vulnerability muscle, redefining vulnerability as a strength to help us connect, to help us heal, foster self-love, and really have a good time. So with that, I wanna first come up with a couple of agreements because I wanna hear from y'all as well, but also from these beautiful, lovely panelists who are gonna share parts of their story. And first agreement, these are things that I live by, but the agreement of love, right? Everything that is shared from a place of love and received from a place of love. And that means hearing somebody's story and not jumping to judgment, not jumping to criticism, just receiving it and having space for their humanity. One thing about the podcast is I like to say that it humanizes the headlines. Right? You see headlines of convicted this or this person did this big thing, bad thing, whatever it may be, but who is the human behind that? We got a whole bunch of humans up here, so sharing and receiving with love. Can we agree to that? We can agree to that? Okay, cool. The other one is grace. Grace. Grace for ourselves, grace for others. Because again, we are human. And humans, we're flawed. We are flawed. And we make mistakes. And we have setbacks and failures. And we can judge ourselves and we can judge others based off of those things. But to know that we are human and that is a part of the human experience, can we have grace for others and ourselves in that? And so with the story shared, let's have grace for those folks. And with the things that you have on your mind that make you feel that shadow that has been inside you for a really long time, can you have grace for yourself as those things come up? Can we agree to grace? And lastly, let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. Yeah. And so I want to open it up with an exercise before I introduce these folks. Look, they can't wait. They like little hyenas trying to get out here. Look, they can't wait. But I want to open it up with a question to you all. And I want some feedback, some comments if you have it. And you always have the ability to pass or not share anything. And also, you're not confined to this room. If you ever need to get up and get out, you can do that as well. But the question is, where in your life have you been vulnerable? Where have you seen it been a struggle to be vulnerable? Because I think vulnerability, from what I've gathered over the years in interviewing people and talking to people, is that vulnerability carries a stigma, that it's a weakness, that it's hard to do. But where in your life have you seen that struggle or that challenge, and what do you feel around that? Anybody got any comments about that?
I'll talk.
Go ahead.
Mic check, mic check. Do you want me to do introductions? You want to do introductions and
Let's
then?
let them, hold up, let me do this. Let me just get 3 people. What does vulnerability mean to you? It could be one word, it could be a whole phrase. What does vulnerability mean to you? Honesty, I like that. Intimacy and connection, Daniel. Transparency. Open. Ain't nobody said weak. I like this group. Okay, well, let's go. Well, look, we're going to get into it. I'm gonna open it up to some introductions, and we're going to start wherever y'all want to start. Trevor wants to start, but I want to open it up with, what have you been impacted by in your life to lead you up to this point, and what do you see your impact in the world? So introduce yourself with that question in mind.
Ladies first.
We're going to get right into it. Can y'all hear me? Okay. I am Bre'Onna. I am the founder and CEO of Purpose Lit. I started this journey being vulnerable. When I first started Purpose Lit, I was coming off of a depressional state, I guess. That's the word I could use. I have attempted suicide, and when I was 13, I had all these feelings, and I didn't know how to express them. And as a 13-year-old child of 6, I was confused, and I felt like lack of attention, and I felt like I needed something that I was not getting. And so I thought that by my non-existence, it would make me feel better, right? So in that moment, I obviously didn't do it, right? Because I'm here. Thank you. So with that, from 13 until I was about 24, I was up and down, depression, up and down, anxiety, up and down, confusion, lack of confidence, just all of the things. All right, you can name something, and it was probably that. And I started thinking of my purpose, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I started a nonprofit, and within that nonprofit, it failed, or it was not successful, whatever. And so one night I did not feel worthy. So I decided to contemplate with the Most High on whether or not I had purpose. And I'm sorry I'm long-winded, but after figuring out what I thought was my purpose, I still didn't feel fulfilled. And with that, I prayed. I don't know, I was meditating. I wouldn't necessarily call it a prayer, but I asked God, if I do not have purpose, don't wake me up. And the next day I woke up, and I was so pissed. I was so pissed, because that was like, you gotta show me that you got purpose, right? So I had been working on Purpose Lit, and that's my mental health brand. And of course, we can talk about it more. But when I realized, like, oh, can I cuss? Oh, shit. I actually asked God, if I didn't have purpose, don't wake me up, and here I am. It was the end of the day, and I was like, oh, shit. I actually woke up. That means I got purpose. It was like such a weird, like, epiphany. And so I had been working on Purpose Lit for like a couple of months, and I went straight into my journal, and I got started with Purpose Lit. So Purpose Lit is literally the impact of post-suicide attempt. So
that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Let's go. Y'all give it up for Bre'Onna. I want to address a couple of things that Bre'Onna said. One, just thank you for the vulnerability and sharing that. And I was not expecting you to go there this early, but you did that. So, and there's strength in that. And but she talked about success and how that first nonprofit endeavor was not a success. And that is something that I have struggled with for a really long time of what does success look like. Because from the outside looking in, me and my journey and my story has been the vision of success for a whole lot of people. But I found myself not too many years ago miserable and not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to do the things that I was doing, not caring about life. And if getting all the accomplishments and doing all the things and being praised for all those things was considered success, then I didn't want that definition of success. So challenging success, that's something that I've been doing a lot recently, is how do we challenge success to make it work for us and what we want, what our values are. That's one thing that you brought up. And then another piece of it is purpose. And I got to talk about purpose because if you don't know, I wrote a book called Perseverance Through Severe Dysfunction, PTSD. And in it, I coined the process of perseverance, from pain to passion, passion to purpose, purpose to power, power to peace. And to get to that peace, right, we go through that process, and it starts with pain, right? You heard the pain that came from a part of her journey of not feeling like she needed to be here anymore. Like non-existence was better than being here. But she turned that pain into passion to do something about it. Passion is an energy. It is emotion. It is ignited to do something to prevent that pain for yourself and for others, and turning that into purpose, the why behind what you do, why you do it, why you get out of bed, why you want to help somebody else. Power is when you stand up and you know that you got everything that it is that you need to be in the spot that you're in. And when you put all those things together and you go through that process, you find peace. And it's a journey, right? Life is a journey. It's ups and downs. You'll find it for a second, and you pull back, and it's like, whew, I'm in that pain again. But you understand the process, and you understand that you go through that, and you will come out on the side of peace. You just got to be committed to it. So trust the process.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? All right. So my name is Trevor Jones. I am founder of Village Culture. And when you talk about purpose, you know, I think it goes into so many different aspects of life. For me, I prayed for years on years, 30 plus years, asking God what my purpose was on this earth. You know, it was crazy because I would go through my day-to-day, corporate guy, I'm a leader, I had staff, but I hated doing what I was doing. I was effective at it, I succeeded at it, but I knew that wasn't the end game. So over time, I was frustrated, and I got to the point where I stopped praying. I said, you know what, God, apparently this is what you want me to do in life. And as I stopped, and it was around the time, it was around COVID. So I'm sitting in my office, and most people like to talk, right? People like to talk, but there was no one to talk to. So I had to sit in my office and listen. And during this time is when God started talking to me. And when I looked at things that I did in life and things that meant so much to me, it was haircuts and it was the gym. It stopped immediately, right? But it made me think. And I was so emotional for, I would probably say 2 or 3 weeks straight. I didn't know why. I just knew something was going on in my body. Something was going on with me. A dark space. And God started talking and said, haircuts. And I started thinking, like, man, everything I did in life centered around a haircut. My confidence wasn't always big, but I know once I got out of that chair, I always felt better. I was not a happy kid all the time. I wasn't the one that always talked. But in the barbershop, I had a place. So as I listened, I'm like, you know what? I could pay for haircuts. I could pay a couple of $100s a month for haircuts, take care of some kids. No one has to know. But it was around the same time I met with my mentor, and he was like, hey, Trey, what's going on? I was like, I got to get back. He said, what do you want to do? And I said, I'm going to start paying for haircuts. He was like, I love your idea, but there's too many kids that need help. You should look at doing a nonprofit. And I'm like, it's going to fail, right? But I sat back, and I swear it took 30 seconds, but to me it was probably 3 hours where I was thinking, and that's where the rubber met the road. So that was 1 week. The next week I'm on the phone with his lawyer, which eventually became my lawyer, and we started Village Culture. He had one ask. do it the right way. So by him telling me that, I made sure I got a PR person, and we got the ball rolling. Now, what separates Village Culture from pretty much everything you've seen is we bring a child on service twice a month. And I have barbers that pay for the haircut. But during that time, most importantly, is when we have conversations. We let them know they can be a Reggie Ford, a guy that speaks French, that has all kind of certificates, but also a best-selling author. But somebody believed in him. His French teacher, she's here now. Somebody believed in Trevor. But I want them to understand as well, I believe in them. So if they dream big, if they dream outside of their environment, they can be whatever they want to be. I ran from it 30 years. I was prophesied that I would be a pastor, a minister when I was 7. And it pushed me back from church because I'm looking at the pastors. The pastor and his wife were the only ones that had things in church. Why would I want to be a leader if this is what a leader does? But God had a different plan. So I'm talking to a lady. She's like, I love what you're doing, but you know you're doing a ministry. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. But to understand what my purpose and what my why was, God knew it was going to take me time to accept that and also work through that. So thank you, Reggie, for the platform. I don't like speaking in front of people, but at the end of the day, this is my why.
We got a couple seats right here if y'all want to come sit down. It's like 3, 4. There's one right there. No, you good. Come on in. You good. You good.
You just made the
I
shot
think
better.
2 more, too. We got 2 more. They're not together, but that's okay. Don't nobody bite. Maryam, you want to get it?
Yes, good afternoon or good evening, everybody. So my name is Maryam Abdallah, and I am the Chief Wellness Officer for I Am Well Consulting. And so I'm a mental health therapist by day, and then I'm an advocate, an adjunct professor, a mother, a daughter, a wife, a friend, neighborhood therapist by night. So I'm doing a lot. And so I would say, so I've been in this space for 20 plus years, and so I will try to sum up what kind of pushed me into mental health therapy. So I have a private practice that I started 3 years ago around pandemic time. But I would say overall, when I first got into the field, I was eager and happy to save the world, or at least that's what I thought. I had a lot of energy. I wanted to do things for everybody. I've always had a helping spirit and wanted to help. And I thought I was doing a good job until, I don't know, maybe 5 years in, when I was burnt out already. So directly after college, now I'm in a profession that I love and still find purpose in, but I'm burnt out in doing the work. And a lot of it had to do with working with families, giving them services, helping them find jobs, helping them go back to school, helping them find housing. I mean, just all the resources that are available, helping them get those. But then I would see them come back around because I worked with the child welfare system, and then I worked at juvenile court, and then I've done work with young adult offenders, and I've met the same people, and then their children, and then sometimes their children in this lineage of the work that I'm doing. And so I stopped and asked myself, why, because we're giving them all these services, why am I seeing the same people over and over? And that's when I decided that it was better to work from the inside out instead of just plopping all these things into somebody's lap and expecting them to then do something, do better, do something different with it, and their mindset had not changed. And so to help people start changing their mindset and healing, because that's really what it's about. If you can do that first, then you'll be able to take all these wonderful resources and do something different. And so I love the song by Kendrick, The Family Soul. I want all my people around me living good, eating good. I want that. I want that for myself, and I want that for my brothers and sisters. And so I do this work to help people really get into the root of what's happening so that they can be well, and we can all be well, because I can't just, if I'm living good, but then I look around and other people aren't, it doesn't feel that great to me. And so I want me to be living good, you, everybody in here, so that our communities can heal and so that we can make a bigger impact than just you get yours and you're on your way. And so that's how I Am Well Consulting was created in that thread. And so working from the inside out.
Beautiful, beautiful. On a show of hands, how many folks in here have ever gone to therapy? Okay. Again, it's all love. Remember, love, grace, and fun. There's no judgment in that. I just wanted to show you, in case you ever had a misconception or a thought about therapy, that there's a lot of people that you interact with on a daily basis who you may think have it all together, or who you may think is still batshit crazy, but we going to therapy, we getting work for ourselves, y'all. We doing it. Bug.
Let's get into it. All right, good evening, everybody. I need to get loose. I like icebreakers.
Yeah.
Need to get loose. Let's do some group participation real quick. Everybody raise one hand. I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah.
Raise it a little high. Now ask yourself, why you didn't do your best the first time I asked you? You can put your hands down. Now that I'm loose. Okay. My name is Johnanthon Davis. I'm a 28-year-old Nashville native. Out east is home for me. Chadwell Elementary School, Greymar Middle School, East Nashville Magnet, AS degree at Nashville State Community College, BS degree at Cumberland University, crossed the frat, on the bowling team at Cumberland University, $8,000 scholarship just to bowl. So there's that. I don't know how to bowl for fun. So there's that. With that being said, to talk about purpose and talk about naturally what my brand is all about, it's not just me. Father, can you raise your hand, please, sir? That's my pops. If you can't
raise
tell,
it higher.
yeah, that's my guy. That's my guy. That is my guy. And I can't forget my mother. Mother, can you raise your hand, please? Yeah. That's my mama. That's my mama. I love y'all. With that, Johnanthon Davis, myself and my dad, we both have the brand known as Black Men Vent To. With that brand, we started in the summer of 2022. Started in the summer of 2022. 2022 in the summer was also the time that my child was born. So I am a proud, not yet, wait a minute, I'm a proud father of a 2-year-old baby boy. Black Men Vent To began with a men's group that my dad orchestrated at our home. My dad and mom have a patio house, and we would bring different men in, young boys from oldest to youngest, and my mom would curate a conversation by dropping different topics in a hat. And we would sit in a circle setting and each pull from the hat what we wanted to discuss to be vulnerable. COVID happened. So you don't need to be around nobody when that's going on. My dad and I, my mom and my younger brother, I also have a younger brother as well, we all met up in the driveway. And this was post-COVID, kind of middle of COVID, post-COVID, if you will. And the discussion was, how can we bring that group back, but in a setting or in a place or in a theme that is not intimate, if that makes sense? What way can we still get the stories out of the men that were in the circle, but not be as close due to the circumstances we were in 2022? A podcast was birthed from that idea in the driveway. That podcast being Black Men Vent To. The beautiful thing about our podcast, just to throw out a couple of analytics, y'all, this is not me bragging, this is God. This has nothing to do with me or nothing to do with my dad.
But you can brag.
Much respect, much respect. We have been heard one time in 47 countries. Let's go. Not just cities, not just states, internationally known on the microphone.
Yeah.
Internationally known on the microphone. We have over 15,500 streams in the course of 3 years. We've interviewed big names like Judge Joe Brown. His name is pretty viral for most reasons, more than not right now. But Catino Mobley, if you guys are basketball fans, come on now. Mayor Freddie O'Connell, the coolest dude ever. I mean,
that's his mom.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And dad.
Wow. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. We'll talk. The coolest dude ever. Freddie was great. to get into it, Black Men Vent To, again, we are a father and son platform. We're the only Black father and son platform in the state of Tennessee. The only podcasting platform in the state of Tennessee. Up to today, you talk about purpose. And the purpose was from a group setting to make sure that we bring any and every Black man onto our platform to come vent about things that they've went through in regards to mental health, depression, anxiety, grief, ADHD, ADD. We talk about anything, because when we talk about the word venting, when you think about it, venting has no ceiling. Venting has no ceiling. We welcome any story and every story. We've had men to cry. We done cried too. We done had men to throw some stuff. It's been a thing. We welcome it though, right? That was part of the purpose. And then the other purpose came in for me personally with my son. Let me be the first person to say, his mother is a great mother. His mother is a great woman. With that, my son was born on 6/15/2022. He's a true 615 baby. He was born June the 15th of 2022. Being vulnerable. 6 months into my child's mother being pregnant, we were together, and I cheated. Right? Stevie Wonder can see that was wrong. Right? With that, I don't fault her. Excuse me. The action was wrong, but the behavior that came from the action is my reason and my purpose for where Black Men Vent To came from. My son is 2. I went my first 3 months with him, and after that went 11 and a half months without him. We just got a visitation plan in place in September of last year. So I'm just now approaching a year of truly being with my son. Imagine being in a place like church or just in a community setting where people know that you have a child, and they'll ask you, how your son doing? How was his first birthday? How was Christmas? Did you get him anything? Yeah, ma'am. I got him some. Oh, he's doing great. Or, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen him. If I do see him, it's via social media. Me being a Nashville native, I used to get DM requests of people sending me, hey, you know your son is here. Hey? I know. That shit hurt. Not today. That shit hurt.
You can do it today. That's okay. We got you.
I love that damn boy. I love that boy. And it is still today that me and his mom are just trying to find some type of balance. I tell my mom and dad all the time because as I've went through this pain, they've went through it too. It's hard to talk to my mom and my dad about things that they've never dealt with just because they've been married for 29, 30 years now.
Let's give it up for that.
Right. Yeah. And I'm finna shut up, I promise.
Keep going.
My son, 11 and a half months. Let's talk about them 11 and a half months. We were still podcasting. I was still working, still doing things in the community, going to community events, poker face, right? I don't have my baby. So I ain't been right since last September. But God. You know what I'm saying? But God. Ever since the first time that I was able to see him after 11 and a half months, I used to go through that whole 11 and a half months almost feeling like my son was tainted because everybody's touched him but me. I've seen him on social media. Shout out to my boy Daniel. We were at an event, and my child's mother, who is in the mental health world, if you will, brought my son to the event. This was month 5 out of 11 and a half. The funny thing about that, kids know energy. I work at a middle school. Kids know good energy, they know bad energy, right? My son locked eyes on me and I locked eyes on him and we couldn't stop looking at each other. We could not stop looking at each other. Now, naturally, I didn't want to go to his mother in that fashion because I hadn't, wanted to be respectful. Going through these 11 and a half months, I have cried. I have attempted suicide. but we still getting episodes out. I'm still servicing the community even when I'm hurt. And sometimes you got to keep playing in the game even when you bleed. That's my purpose behind Black Men Vent Too.
That's a powerful, powerful testimony right there. And Johnanthon is one of, like, all of these people up here for a reason, because you see, we have vulnerable folks who don't see the shame in that vulnerability. They see the power in it. And that power has connected us all. That power has brought us together to have conversations like this behind closed doors where there are no cameras, where there are no lights, to where we can sit down and hug each other and hold each other and hold space for each other during those times. And I just want to say to you that I love you, and I love that you are here, and I love that you are building a relationship with your son, and I know how much you love him, and I know that you're going to provide a life for him that is going to be so glorious and so beautiful. Don't be sorry. No, you hear that? You hear that support and that love? It strengthened that. My auntie in the audience right there, she said those tears, what'd you say, auntie? Tears are a release valve for the heart. Release valve for the heart. So you let that out. It needs to come out. I love you, bro. I love all y'all. Quez, you got it.
All right, how y'all doing tonight? Ooh, I don't know how to follow all this up. Nah, you good, boy. Hey, that's the way to kick it off. But so I'm Quez Cantrell. The name might sound familiar. Cantrell's Barbecue right down here. Grew up right here in this area. I'm an out east baby, just like, you know, a couple of these people that I mentioned up here. Lived in every neighborhood, Inglewood, originally from James Casey, so South 8, if y'all know about South 8. Grew up in Inglewood mostly. That's where me and Reggie connect. Lived right. That's why it's kind of weird to be here, because I literally grew up on Edwin Street too, so I done walked this and rode bikes and stole bikes and just being honest, you know what I'm saying? We was just out here, you know what I mean? But I am an independent recording artist, so I make music, I love it and I enjoy it, and it's one of the most vulnerable things that I've ever done. I know people who know me from growing up are probably shocked that I'm doing this. You know, I don't even know if Reggie probably know what I sounded like growing up. I was around, but you probably wouldn't know, you know. I'm also a motivational speaker, which Reggie has helped push me into that, you know, and helped me find my voice, and a mental health advocate. And I got into those things, I would say around 13, you know, I made a decision that I gotta save my family. 13 years old. My dad at the time had been in prison for about 4 years. He left when I was 9, so that 9 is very significant to me. Even at the time, my older brother, he was 15, very involved in the streets. He's done 2 stints in prison, the penitentiary and federal, so he's pretty much missed a lot of his adult life. So I've taken part in helping raise his kids. My younger brother, who was 10 months younger than me, so we're Irish twins, as they say. And man, we couldn't have been any more different, night and day. He was light-skinned, I'm dark-skinned. He was skinny, I'm fat, or was a little bigger than this. I'm still, you know. Just being honest, I'm a big dude, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, he was into the streets and I wasn't. You know, I was cool playing my video games and listening to music all day. And growing up, you know, I just saw, I don't know what it was at 13. I just saw that I'm gonna have to do something to save my family. So even before that, I was still kind of ripping and running like they were. Like I said, we stealing bikes and, you know, painting them at the house and reselling them. We had a whole little business going. You know, I'm just being honest. Vulnerability, right? Honesty. Somebody say honesty. So being honest. But I grew up in, you know, my family, not just my brothers and my father, but extended family, uncles, cousins were very involved in the streets. So I saw then that it just, something just wasn't for me. I don't think I had the heart to be in the streets for real. You know what I mean? or my heart would have got broke so early in the streets that I would have became what I saw. And I always said, I'm gonna be a lawyer, you know, because they gonna need that. But then I realized I'm gonna be working for free a lot. You know, so I don't think I'm gonna make a living when everybody gonna come to me and say, hey man, just help me out this time, cuz. Man, I just said that last time, cuz. But so yeah, I would say I went to college, got my degree in computer science, Austin Peay State University. Thank you very much. You know, go Govs. Let's go P. That's what they say. Let's go P. And from there, I left and I got a job at Deloitte, which is where me and Reggie, we really ran back into each other. And it was like, man, this kind of, it feels like it's meant to be. It's something here. So from that point to now, we've been building. We've been building, having private conversations. I don't think I got a friend that knows as much about me as Reggie, for real. 2013, I was about to graduate from college, and my dad, he got out of prison when I was a freshman in high school, went back to prison when I was a freshman in college, came back my 4th year of college, was out for a year, then he passed away the following year, heart attack. And man, from there, I felt compelled to speak, like even at his funeral. So I wrote something and I got up and spoke, and I think that was the first time that everybody, like, I don't know what it was. I don't even remember what I said. I folded the note up, put it in the casket with him, so I don't even have that anymore. But everybody, I had a few people come up to me and say, man, there's something about the way that you use your words and your voice, and you got to do something with that. And I started writing raps when I was 13, so a lot happened when I was 13. And that stuck with me. That, and then I also, my granddad came up to me and says, grandson, you got the word in you. And you here to do something. And that I think I ran from it when he said that. That was overwhelming, like, the word. I'm 23, I'm out here trying to turn up, you know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to be in the pulpit. That just didn't feel like me. So I ran from it. I ran from that calling. 6 years later, 2019, my younger brother was murdered. And like I said, Irish twins. And I think, that was the moment that I said, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my words, but at the time I had been writing music for probably about a year. When I came home from college, I was making websites for artists, so I was already fully ingrained in the music industry in Nashville. Even before that, I was on street teams as a teenager, so I'd done every part of music, and I knew that I had a gift to write music. I knew I had a gift with words, but I needed something to pull me out of myself. And I had shared, some music with my brother, and I just remember his face. He just looking at me like, bro, you the one, man. You been the one this whole time. You the one. I can't, but like, it was one of the moments where it was just shocking. And that's one of the last memories I got of him, too. So it was more, I felt compelled, like, man, I done lost 2 of the most important people to me. And I didn't really care too much after that. I didn't care to stand in front of people if my music was terrible. If nobody liked it, I didn't care. I just felt like this hunger inside of me to just let it out. And I always done that when I got in the booth. And then when I got on stage, and then that became like, wow, I love this. I love doing this. And since then, I've been releasing music since I dropped my first project, 9 in 2020. And it was received well, very well, to my surprise. A 6-song EP. It tells me telling my experience of being black in Nashville, right? And growing up in the environment that doesn't cater to us, doesn't recognize us, so many times doesn't do justice for us. And one thing that I realized is I was telling everybody's story by telling my own. And I didn't realize that at first. So it was a little selfish. I'm like, man, you know what? I'm in pain, and I want to speak. And my brother actually said that like 2 weeks ago, my older brother. He said, bro, and y'all excuse the language, this is his exact word. He said, bro, when you tell your story, He's speaking for 10,000 niggas from out east, bro. So many of us who grew up here went through the same things, and we never would have known if you didn't tell your story. So me telling my truth has opened up my world. It's allowed me to use my voice. It's allowed me to build community. I've met everybody up here through doing what I do, and a few people in the crowd through doing what I do. So I'm a boy. And that's my truth, man. You know, I'm still trying to save my family. You know, I'm still trying to save my family. I still work in corporate America, but this is what I love doing, you know. I'm super nervous if y'all can, like, I don't know if y'all can tell, I'm so nervous right now.
You're not worried about that.
Man, I might be worried about it. But yeah, that's my truth, man, and that's kind of how I got into this, is just, you know, pain. You know, pain compelled me to speak and use my voice, and it's opened up a world for me that I didn't recognize, you know, that I could be a part of. So, yeah.
Thank you, brother. Quez talked about growing up out east and then college and then reconnecting at Deloitte. And I feel that we've been on a very similar journey pretty much all our lives in the parallels between us being the one, the chosen one of the family, of the whomever, going off, going corporate, doing all those things, and then uniting in this moment where we were trying to find who we were and discovering that we were on that same journey together. We've been united since, what year was that, man? 2013, 14, 15?
Something like that.
And it's been one of the most healing relationships of my entire life. To have a brother, to have a brother that I connect with like him is unlike anybody else. It's like, thank you. Like his little brother that he talked about who passed away. Growing up, we were in the same class, we were best friends, both athletes, doing all that, and then to like lose a really good friend that we went two different paths, just like him and Quez. I felt a piece of me was lost, but when I got back united with my brother, it was like, okay, we got a bigger purpose, not just for us, but for, like he said, them 10,000 niggas from out east who out here doing it. And that 9 I wear, y'all might see me with a picture with that 9 on my hat. It's so significant to me because it represents a bond that I have with that man right there. And so I just wanted to shout you out, bro. I love you to death.
Thank you, bro. And even to speak a little deeper on that, you know, I lost a brother and I gained so many more. You know, one thing that happened was the support. I didn't realize how much support I had until I lost my brother. You know, Reggie, Daniel. You know, I had so many people that I connected with that God provides, man. You know what I'm saying? God really does provide in the name of Jesus. And you know, losing my brother, that was the hardest thing. And then I gained 10 more younger brothers. You know what I mean? And now I get to mentor to them, and they look up to me, and it fills that void in me. To be able to help somebody through my pain, you know. So
I got a story about your brother, and so
Lord,
it's a good one. Well,
because you never know.
So
you never know.
My brother, I got a younger brother who had his run-ins with the law and all that, and he ended up in jail. And he calls me from jail one day, and he's like, "Hey, you'll never guess who in here." I was like, "Who?" He's like, "Cantrell." And I'm like, "Oh, for real?" He's like, "He want to talk to you." So Marcus get on the phone, and he's like, "What up, Reg? How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm chilling, bro." He's like, "Hey, I just want you to know we got your brother. He good." And that was your brother, man. Your brother was a protector. Your brother was a lover. He did not want to fight. I have another story. This was what, 5th grade. I'm in Miss Washington class, and all I hear is commotion coming down the hallway, and your brother backpedaling. He's backpedaling. And he's like, "I don't want to hit you. I don't want to hit you." I'm not going to talk about who it was, but he's like, "I don't want to hit you."
You're going to tell me after this. I know
who it, yeah. The dude swung at Marcus. Marcus is quick as lightning. He back up, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it was a little radio right there. The radio was knocked over. The dude was on the ground, and Marcus was just like, I told you I didn't want to hit you.
That was him, man. That was him.
So he
him.
He didn't want to hurt you. He knew the power
But he
that
would.
he had.
But he would.
And he could. So, man, thank you for letting us laugh. I think that's something that's beautiful, right? We talked about fun too, right? A place where we can hold space for the tears and the laughter at the same time, because that's part of the human experience. We don't go around walking around like Eeyore all the time, down and sad. Like that's not the whole experience. There are times of joy too. And it's important to recognize that we can hold space for both, and that life exists in that gray area, right? And we try to make things so binary at times to where, like, man, I had a terrible day. No, like the first 10 minutes of your day were terrible, and then you turn the rest of your day terrible, right? You had 10 minutes that were bad, right? Or I had a great day, right? There were some bad parts of that great day, but you choose to focus on what those are. We can hold space and honor all of those experiences, the good and the bad. And that could be in a day, that could be in a year, that could be in our entire lives. And so when you think about the experiences that you have, right, the memories that you have connected to different people, to different places, like, how can you honor both? How can you honor the good and the bad? And so you brought up loss, and I think that's a big topic that I want to talk about, because I think loss, vulnerability, the grief, the shame, all of that comes along with that is big. And I recently, this past weekend, I did a grief, I was a camp counselor for a grief camp, local grief camp with some kids, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. Like, to see these kids who have lost significant people in their lives be able to smile and run around, but then also, 2 minutes later, we're doing a grief circle. And then we're going back out and we're doing a zip line, and we're going back in and we're doing something that's surrounding their grief. And these are some of the most creative, most compassionate young people that I have ever witnessed. And it was so beautiful to see them in how they were handling their grief. That was so fresh for a lot of them. But I want to just open this up to the panel with grief, right? I know some stories, and I know we've lost some people or some things, right? Some people, some things, some concepts, some parts of ourselves, right? And how that grief has affected you, and speak to maybe the experience if you feel comfortable.
I'll open it up. And, for me, it was my father passed away when I was 8. And my dad passed from cirrhosis of the liver. 8 years old was the last year I cried for 30 years. Because my thought was, if I cry, I'm weak. But I also felt like no one understood the pain that I was going through, because of the guy that told me he loved me, he would do anything for me, could not give up a bottle. So it took me years to understand it's a disease. On top of that, my oldest brother, he's a person that I truly look up to, and he fell down that same path where he was an alcoholic, and he fell in love with the bottle, and he couldn't get off the bottle. But he eventually made his mind up and said he was done with the bottle, and he got help, and now he's 2.5 years in, sober. Yeah.
Amen.
So for me, understanding the why, it's all starting to connect, right? I wish I would have had my father, but it made me a stronger person now that I'm a father. And I tell people all the time, I'm learning with my son. My son is 5 years old, and I swear, by the time he's 13, he's probably going to be smarter than me. I'll never tell him that. But, it's one of the most challenging, but one of the most rewarding things in life, because you're able to mold an individual that truly looks up to you. So, me dealing with my father, and now I talk about it. At first, I would never talk about, how I felt when my father passed away, and, how long it took me, because it affected everything I did in life, school, relationships, everything. But now that I'm able to vent, now that I'm able to be a man, that man is able to cry. I may cry at a commercial, watching Huggies or tissue. But at the end of the day, I'm still a stronger man.
That's beautiful, man. Thank you. Thank you. I love Trevor is a humble guy. Like he really is, because the way that he has shown up for me, like when sharing the story of losing his father, and the men up here have been on the podcast. They have an episode. There are a couple other folks out here who've been on the podcast. Jerome Moore in the audience. My auntie, she's been on the podcast. Dennis Bermudez has been on the podcast. Raise your hand if I miss somebody else. Anybody else been on the podcast? And Pops, of course, yes. And but you shared the story, and one thing that I don't think I've shared with you, and we meet on a regular basis, is that I don't have a relationship with my father. I don't, and I want to. I love my dad, but there's certain things, life happens, and different people go different ways. And but in the time that I've known you, you've stepped up like a father, man. And that's one of the things.
That means more than you know, man. It really does, because I look up to this guy, right? I know a lot of people, but this is the one guy that I look at and I smile every time. I wish he was my son. Matter of fact, and I'm not too much, younger than your father. I could be your dad. But at the end of the day, he makes me feel like, he makes me see happiness, right? Because he's that one person that can hit any lane, right? Most people can't hit any lane, right? He can be a corporate guy. He can be a badminton guy that is very competitive, but at the end of the day, he can be the person that you can rely on. I kind of offended him when I first met him. I wasn't going to say that, but since he puts it out there, I was invited to a graduation for some troubled teens. And Reggie was in the audience, and I got up and I said, "Man, congratulations, you just graduated?" He's like, no. I'm like, what? What are you talking about, man? He said, "No, I'm one of the people that they invited me to the ceremony." Oh, really? Okay, I'm sorry.
Pay for the event.
But then he hits me with the dagger. He said, "Oh, take my book." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this guy has a book too." But it was great because it gave me the opportunity to extend and say, "Hey, Reggie, I want to take you to dinner." And that's how the relationship started. So,
yeah, definitely. Oh man, that's my guy right there. Thank you, bro. I want to keep it there though. So, with grief, right? We often deal with grief, and we all deal with it differently. Some people, you see them go back to work the very next day. Some people, they are never the same, right? And I honestly think that none of us are ever the same. We just learn to adapt with the newness of whatever our new reality is. And so, Quez, I'm looking at you. What has your grief process been like in losing two significant people in your life?
Yeah.
In such close proximity with each other, but then how did you deal with that?
Honestly, man, I don't think up to those moments, I don't even think I had known myself outside of grief. I think I've been grieving for as long as I can remember. I just didn't know what it was. I think that's why I was so quiet and in my shell growing up, because I've been losing people for as long as I can remember. I know so much of Nashville, so I've lost a lot of people. Those are the two significant ones, but they aren't the only ones that hurt. I would say my grief with my brother was probably the worst. I was working at Deloitte, and man, I remember the day like it was yesterday. It was 2019, July 8th. The MLB All-Star game was on, so I was sitting there about to watch the All-Star game and just got a call from my mom and yelling, screaming. I remember running out the door, and something that moment always sticks with me because my daughter's mom, she always says, you ran out the house that day and you never came back. And that hit me because it made me kind of look at myself in the mirror like, bro, who am I now? You know what I'm saying? I can't live off who I was yesterday. Who am I now? And then I'm working in a corporate setting, very competitive market called e-discovery. And the work is endless. There's always something to do. So me taking time off of work was an issue, even for that. And I remember, I was probably out about a week. and I went in to have a meeting with, my manager and her manager, and understandably so, I'm breaking down and they're kind of letting them know the issue because this isn't something that I think that they are familiar with, right? My brother was murdered. And it hit the news, and the story was incorrect on the news. They said my brother tried to rob a person, but he was actually set up by somebody that he was in the car with. So I got all these things going on, and I remember sitting in that meeting, and I'm asking him, how long can I take? And I don't know how long I need, because the grief brain is different. It doesn't connect the dots. Sometimes the words don't connect. The memories, you lose a lot when you go through grief. And my manager, she was understanding, but her manager was more like, when can we get you back? Because it's a strain on the team. I'm literally sitting there in tears. And I said that day, I never want to deal with this again. And I've been trying to get out of corporate ever since then. So that's what led me into this point, into speaking and doing music and selling merch. So if you want to cop some merch for me, quezcan.com. Shameless plug, because we still got to eat. But yeah, I don't think I really met myself until I accepted that I was grieving. And that was 4 years ago. So I'm 4 years old today, And it's been a strenuous 4 years. My family is so disconnected. My household is not where it should be. And as a man, that makes me feel a certain type of way. So I was struggling between how do I still show up and how do I still be there for myself and allow myself to get through this. And man, it's been a struggle, dog. I can't lie. It's been a struggle. I've had trouble executing on anything. I've had trouble showing up for people, and I was Mr. Dependable before that, right? So I've dropped the ball on so many things, even with Reggie talking about the camp that he done this weekend. I was supposed to be a part of that, and I don't know, it's just something like I dropped the ball a lot. So trying to accept that I may need help, right, with all of my goals and the things that I'm going through, but accepting that I'm grieving and walking in that and getting to know myself a lot better outside of that, because like I said, I've lost a tremendous amount of people, so I don't know myself outside of grief. So that's kind of the plight that I'm in right now, is just getting to know myself and what do I like, you know what I mean? And a lot of that has been going back through the memories. Like I loved writing music growing up. I love sports, so I still go to the batting cage now. I ain't played on a team in years, but I still go hit the ball. And my daughter, I have an 8-year-old daughter, she loves softball, so that's something that we do together. And seeing her grow up has kind of reminded me that I used to be that. And when we play together, I'm the most childish father that there is. I don't think there's a father that's more immature than I am. And sometimes she loses sight of that I'm her father. So I have to parent her and say, hey, it's usually just a look. Mm-hmm. And then she get the look. And then I ain't got to say too much. I got a perfect kid, man. I don't, she never been in trouble. I never had to whoop her. One time I did, and that's the worst experience of my life. That was probably more traumatic than losing people, honestly. I swear, man, I cried like a baby when I whooped her that day. Because she looked at me like, who are you? I'm your father. But yeah, I hope that answered the question.
No, I mean, you said some really beautiful things, and I think a lot of, can anybody relate to some of the things that he said? Yeah, for sure. I want to go to Maryam. As you work with people around different mental health things that they are dealing with, when it comes to grief, what is some of your advice that you give to folks in processing and dealing with the grief that they've experienced?
Yeah, I would say number one is to know that it's individualized. So as you said, I've maybe been in grief for a long time. I came out of grief. I find some joy. I go back. I figure out what's happening. I may go all the way back through. There's 6 stages, 7, depending on who you ask, of grief. And so it's not linear. So each stage takes us really sitting in that stage. That's the number one thing. And so a lot of us, probably most of us, want to heal. So we just want to get to the other side and feel better. And so each stage, we typically are going to spend just a little bit. Oh, I feel angry today. I don't need to do that. Push it away. Oh, I feel sad today. I need to go to work. Let me shove that somewhere else. Oh, I feel frustrated about this. It's not fair, but I have to take care of my child. Let me put it away. But every time you suppress that emotion and push it down deeper, it's going to come back, and it's just going to come back even heavier. It's going to show up in a work meeting. It's going to show up when you're trying to parent your child and have a good time. It's going to show up when you're in the grocery store in the middle of the aisle and something reminds you of that person or that loss. And so it really is taking the time to sit in the grief and cry and release and be angry and throw stuff and whatever is your release, whatever says, this does not feel good. It shouldn't. Grief does not feel good. But you have to be able to sit in that space. And then as you are sitting in that space and asking each of those stages, what are you coming to tell me? What do I need to take from this? What is this sadness telling me? And then once you get it, then you can move on to the next stage and then the next stage. But just know that you might fall back to one of the stages you felt like you already went through. So it's not linear. It's not it is individualized. So every person shows up differently. I lost my mom 22 years ago. So as a young adult, and 22 years later, if something happens or I have a memory or my daughter does something and I sound like my mom, I'm going to get sad, but then I'm going to find the joy in that memory and be thankful for remembering that and, oh, I received that from her. And so it's about the balance. So really sitting in that grief and then saying, okay, what can I take from this grief? And when you're able to have the grief and find the joy, you've moved into some healing. So
Thank you. You said something I want to touch on. Is there is something that you can find from it. There may be something positive from it, and it may not feel like it in the moment when you're dealing with the hard thing that is going on. But there are lessons that we learn from loss. There are lessons that we learn if we lose a person. There is a memory that we can hold on to, that we can grow and gain from. And I think when grieving, to try to find both. Right, and we did an exercise. I'm fresh out of this camp, right? We did an exercise where we took a piece of paper, big old piece of paper. All the kids had a piece of paper, and they wrote in pencil all the negative things associated with their grief, or all the hard, heavy feelings that came with that grief, right? Sadness, anger, lost, confused, frustrated, and we wrote that in pencil, and then the next exercise was to grab a Sharpie, right, and talk about some of the things that were positive that came with that loss. Relief. And that person that I know who was living that life and they were struggling, they're no longer doing that, right? Hope. There's hope in the things that they told me, showed me how to breathe, showed me how to persevere, showed me how to do so many things. And when I look out and I see that bird, it's a reminder of the good things, right? Or I look up into the clouds and they forming something. I know they talking to me, right? Right, there are some beautiful things in grief as well. And so again, like one of the things that has been the best thing for my mental health is to recognize that two things can exist at the same time. Two things, even opposites, can exist at the same time. Right? I could not want to be around you, but I could also want to be smothered in your love at the same time, right? So two truths can exist at the same time in grief and life and mental health and all of it. And so, yeah, I just wanted to say that. But I got one more question I want to ask, and I want to hear from y'all too. And but then I want to turn it over. So y'all be ready to talk, right? Y'all be ready to talk. And I hope that you feel that this is a safe space, right? They don't open up like this for everybody, right? It's a space that is created to be safe so that you can share those things and to know that the things that are said in here are meant for this type of environment, and they're not going to be used to stab you in the back, That's one of the hardest things about vulnerability, is to share yourself with your soul with somebody and for them to turn that around and use it against you at a later point. And so when we do speak and the things that you hear up here, that is not the intent. That is not what we're doing. We're not going out there and using it to say, oh, blah, 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 blah. No, it's to hold space, extend love and grace, right? And so I want to ask this question to y'all too. Bug, Johnanthon, you've been ready to do this. You've been texting me, and I love your enthusiasm. It's a question that you want me to ask you. I don't know that question, but you do. What is that question, and can you answer it? That's a real good interview question, y'all. I don't gotta do nothing.
That boy's good.
Due to so much that goes on in my life, what was the question? Because I don't know.
You're coming up with it. It's something that was burning that you want to share with these folks right now, right? It's something that's on your heart. It may have happened today. It may be something that you just haven't shared on Black Men Vent 2 podcast. It may be something that you shared on the podcast with me. And let me say something. There was a moment on that podcast that touched my heart. You two, for whatever reason, I felt like I wanted to see your interaction and your conversation with your dad of what that relationship meant to you. And you spoke to him and said some extremely loving words, and he spoke back to you some words that brought me to tears. And I don't know if I said this on the podcast or afterwards, but that was healing for me, to see a strong bond between a father and a son and the beautiful words that they share with each other. If y'all haven't seen it, check that episode out and watch that moment, because it's one of the most beautiful things you'll see in your life. So I just wanted to say that. But yeah, you coming up with this question, bud.
He done got me, but it's all right. I'm a podcaster. I can talk. So I guess to come up with a question is
How about this? How about this? Co-parenting.
Yeah.
Co-parenting is heavy for you.
Yeah.
And you better than most people that I know speak to the good and the bad of it, and you honor your co-parent. But speak to the challenges that you've experienced and what you would have hoped to see out of that experience.
Me and my dad, we did a whole series on the title Co-Parenting Conspiracies. There are some conspiracies to co-parenting. I will say it again. My child's mother is a great mother. My child's mother, she's a great woman. Co-parenting is hard when it's a book titled How to Hug a Porcupine. No matter what I do, my best prayers have been prayed to the man above. I've talked to a few panelists that's here to vent about my situation. How do you hug a porcupine? Because no matter how you try to get around them, you're gonna get stuck, right? The co-parenting journey, I'm still in it, naturally. And I think just speaking on co-parenting and grief, going through that 11 and a half months, I felt like I lost my child. And it was one of those things where if the co-parenting situation was mutual, I would not have felt that way. The grief came in for me when I'm going into public places or public areas. You know what used to really grind my gears the most during that 11 and a half months? And I felt a sense of loss. Go to the mall or to the park or the church and see a black man walking with his black baby. I felt happiness because I loved it, right? My dad's been in my life all of my life. But then I had a sense of anger because why that ain't me, right? Co-parenting. One of the conspiracies is that it works for everybody. Oftentimes it doesn't. You get into these situations where you conceive a child and you think that the love or the infatuation, whatever was in that moment, is gonna carry into being able to parent this child. That wasn't the case for me. Now again, Stephen Wonder can see that I was wrong when I stepped out on my child's mother while she was 7 months pregnant. The action does not warrant the behavior. I argue that with anybody. The beautiful thing about grief, you gotta feel it to heal it. You gotta feel it to heal it. Them 11 and a half months, I was feeling it. I'm snapping on everybody. Like you said, you get into certain places where you're not yourself, right? But to wrap things up, one special movie that helped me understand how to deal with grief and the emotions that come with it, Inside Out. Go check that movie out. It's a sequel. Go check that movie out. It was so interesting, and for those of you that have seen it, to see how happiness and sadness were always together. There was a duality, right? They were always together. Because as you mentioned, thought about mom, a little sadness in there. She was right here by your shoulder. But then happiness came right back around like joy. Joy came right around like, hey, no, sadness, let's go over here. You know, I'm here. That movie helped me to deal with grief, dealing with the 11-month loss of my son, me not having my son. I still feel like even today I'm picking back up time. Even when people want to be like, want to tell me, when you gonna bring Zach over to gonna spend some time with me? I ain't had my own time yet. You feel me? I ain't had my own time yet. Shoot. But co-parenting and grief, you know, for me personally, they went hand in hand because even with my child's mother, there was a love that was there. And as I move more into this journey, I just want to find that love back, that platonic love, so that we can do the best behind this young king that we raised. I know, look, I can look at all of y'all in the eye. I was wrong. I was wrong. Real wrong. Real wrong. But I wait for that moment that God will present that moment for me and her to sit down and have that talk. I'm waiting for that moment because it's not a moment for me or a moment even for her. It's a moment for my baby boy. For us to have that conversation, that's going to be the best moment for him once he sees that we're on one unit. And God will just take the risk.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. So people relate to that too? Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate all too well on every single topic from the conversation you had and the conversation you shared or the story you shared. So I'll start by picking up to say co-parenting is what it is, you know, all of the things that you said. I cannot move forward without sharing that I have a beautiful 2-year-old son. So thank you. The whole time he was talking, I'm like, nope, don't, because I'm such an empath. So immediately I'm gonna feel exactly what he's feeling, even though I'm the woman. I'm a different, you know, it's a different perspective, right? And so I'll be quick with that. But me and my son's dad are obviously not together because look how I'm prefacing that. We actually separated a year after my son was born, and a lot of that stemmed from him losing his father. And I didn't realize it, but his father was more so the reason we were holding on because his dad was a pastor and he spoke to marriage a lot. And after his dad passed away, we never talked about marriage again. And so for me, as a woman at the age of 28 who said, I'm not having kids unless it's with my husband. And at 28, I thought that, you know, this is my moment. He's a God-fearing man. We're gonna get married. We're gonna do the right thing. He's gonna make me an honest woman. And yeah, I was quickly met with loss and grief because not only was I grieving his father's loss, he was as well. And that followed the loss of our relationship. And as a new mom, 29 years old with a 1-year-old, I lost myself, right? We don't a lot of women speak to that, but I'll speak to that in this vulnerable space. I lost myself at 29 years old when, I'm saying 29, but I was 20, I don't know, maybe 29 when I gave birth to my son, but 29 is when I re-met myself. So the loss of who I was before I had my son, I don't even know who that version of myself is anymore. So I think I'm about 3 years old myself. So I'm learning myself all over again. All in all, with creating Purpose Lit at the same time, I'm a completely different person. But because of the loss of my old self, birthed the new version of who I am today. And I just had to piggyback off of that because that loss was one that I had not expected, right? And so looking at my son today, he is my joy. He is literally the reason why I'm still here. So, when you have a kid, that's probably the most vulnerable you're gonna ever be. And if you're a parent, if you're a parent, make some noise, because I know we got a lot of parents in here. Yeah. So that's a whole nother level of vulnerability, right? But yeah, I just had to speak to the fact that I have a son. But I'm gonna pivot because I'm gonna say two things. The first thing is Reggie is so good at what he did, at what he does. I don't even think nobody realizes he literally let everyone speak about loss and grief before me because I'm freshly in a grieving period. And so I appreciate that because I was able to take from what a lot of people said in their journey. And also, the second thing is your body has a way of reacting to certain things. And I'm pretty sure there's a science to it, but I don't know it, so I'm not about to try to speak to it. But the entire time from the moment he said the question about grief, I've been shaking. And not to say don't start looking now, but my body was literally trembling at the thought of grief. And I couldn't even imagine sitting here talking right now without tears because my body was reacting to it, right? And I definitely, I feel so obligated at this point to speak because the loss that I just recently experienced has been so transformative because it encompasses so much more than a physical loss. And I don't think a lot of people talk about that. But June 20th, I lost a really dear friend. And it sucks because a lot of people lose family members, and it's hard because it's your family, right? But this dear friend of mine was someone who was my family in the spiritual realm. And so you don't get bereavement for that, right? You gotta just chuck it up and go back to work and keep moving, right? Like a lot of us have to do with so many other things. But losing him in the spiritual realm, and I'm just going to say his transition because he's still here spiritually, and I am going to speak to that because his spiritual presence has been the reason why I can speak to it so well. He was my soul brother. I literally never had to explain myself around him, and it felt so comfortable, and I can flourish, I can be creative, I can be feminine, I can be all of these things. And it was strictly platonic. He wanted nothing from me, and I wanted nothing from him, but we could just exist and be in that space. And it just felt so good to have someone in my life that I could share that space with, and he was not a woman, right? Because if you're a woman, it's so hard to share space with men, and it be completely platonic. So his transition has been so heavy on me lately. And I'm so grateful for the space that he held and still holds in my life every single time. And this is still, what is today? August 22nd of 2024. Every time I'm struggling or I'm feeling like I'm, thinking of him or whatever, he sends me a sign. Every single time. I've not had one moment to this day where I've not thought of him or felt some sort of pull on his heart and he has not spoken to me in the spiritual realm. So that fulfills me, and it makes me be able to grieve, I guess. I don't know, whatever. After he passed, I was numb. I was completely numb. Didn't know what day it was, didn't know what time it was. I had to go to work, and I was literally a zombie. for maybe a month. We had his service a month after he passed, and to experience grieving for a whole month before even celebrating the loss, I don't even know what I was doing for that whole month. I tell people all the time, I was just, I don't know, still to this day, right? But he was my creative soul brother, and he was an artist, songwriter. The list goes on. But me and him sparred a lot in the creative realm because he was an artist and I write music, and I've not publicly spoken about that. But I'm a songwriter. I've been writing songs since I was 14, poetry as well. And we went back and forth on whether or not I should share my creative gift, as you would call it, to the world. And I've been holding it back for 4 years. And this year, I shared a song with him. And he was like, if you don't go work on the album, I'm so sick of it. And so, of course, jokingly, I can go back and forth in the spiritual realm with him because I have been writing music. And so that's been how I've been grieving, because although he can't physically hear or, help me with my music, he's there spiritually with me. And so that's been honestly the only light that I've found throughout, this grieving process, because like I said, anytime that I've thought of him, he's come through in the spiritual realm. And so that's been my anchor throughout this. So I'm very grateful for that space, and I'll wrap up. But while I was losing him in the spiritual realm, I was also physically losing my apartment. And so I was being misplaced from my apartment, and also not having that anchor or that friend or that, spiritual counterpart that I could depend on in that space. And although I was losing, all of these materialistic things, I did gain a sense of clarity on where I was supposed to be. And there's a lot of gray area. I'm sorry, I can't go into that. But while losing all of these things and, just going through the motions and being vulnerable right now, I was able to detach from a lot of things that may not have made sense to a lot of people, but I gained my strength, I gained my independence, and honestly, I've gained my sanity over the last month while, experiencing all of these things. Yeah, so I'm saying that out loud because it's probably the first time I've actually felt it and sat with it. And it may be too premature for me to be sitting here and speaking, but I don't think anything happens by chance. So I really appreciate Reggie for being that mirror in my life to, allow me to be vulnerable, because I think vulnerability is a strength. I know it is. I don't think it is. I know it is. So I'm gonna just wrap that up because I will ramble because of the grief. But I appreciate every single person that is looking me in my face right now as I share this story, because a lot of things people that are in my life probably don't even know. But I'm still picking myself back up. So this grief is really heavy, and it's turning me into a completely different person, but I'm meeting myself all over again every day. But yeah, I had to share that because, like I said, he allowed everybody to speak, and then I'm like, dang, I'm the one that's actually like feeling it right now in this moment. And so I really appreciate that, and I also appreciate every single one of you for allowing me to be so vulnerable and share that, because it's been very dark around here. So I really appreciate you all for just holding space, and yeah.
Can we place your feet on the ground? Feet on the ground. And first, if you feel comfortable to, close your eyes, and I want you to think about some of the emotions that may have come up in some of the sharing today. And I want you to give yourself some grace for any judgments that you may have passed on yourself or on someone up here who has spoken. I want you to recognize some of those who aren't here that you may be grieving yourself. And I want you to picture yourself as a little child, as happy as you can be. Running through a field, playing your favorite sport, playing with your best friend, riding a bike, wind blowing through your face, through your hair. And I want you to give that little person a hug. The biggest hug that you've ever given anyone in your entire life. And I want you to take a deep inhale and a deep exhale. And keep breathing like that, slow and steady, making the exhales a little bit longer than the inhales. Recognize that this is heavy. Life is heavy. The things that we go through are heavy, but we don't have to carry it alone. The people up here share what they share, not out of, this is not them showing up every single day, sharing their vulnerabilities, crying in front of folks, but they feel a sense of comfort because they know in this we're connected, we are together. And I got them and they got me. And they felt that with y'all. That's how they were able to get there. And y'all provided that space. And I want you to provide that space through life. For yourselves, for the other people around you, so that they feel safe to show up and be their full self. Because that's what saves us, y'all, is the community. The community that we build, the community that we form, that reprograms our brains, that were in those situations where our environment and our community was the thing that was hurting us. No, but now we got a new community. We heard soul brother. I got soul parents and soul brothers and soul sisters. I got soul family members. I got chosen family members because those are the folks who I feel safe and comfortable around doing this type of stuff with. Find those people in your life. Find those people that can wrap their arms around that little child that you hugged because they deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve all the best that life has to offer. You are a beautiful human just as you are, despite the accomplishments, despite the achievements, in spite of all the mistakes that you may have made, setbacks and the flaws. You are beautiful and great just as you are. You are imperfect, and that imperfection is beauty. We need your uniqueness. We need you just as you are. I want you to take a deep inhale through your nose, and I want you to hold it at the top. And I want you to let all of that love swirl around inside your lungs. And then let it go as you spread that out to the rest of the room. And then you can open your eyes. Now I want to open it up to y'all. I was going to do a little bit where y'all were talking to each other, but I think we're running out of time. But for anybody who may have a question, a comment, or if something resonated with y'all, if you have something that you want to share that's on your heart, anybody got something like that, raise your hand or just let it happen.
I'll stand up, and I'm sorry for in the back. I think dang, call me out in the front. You stood up. Dang. All right. Well, I'm Dennis. This is my brother Reggie. Hello, people. Thank you so much. I know the striking resemblance, right? Right. But one of the things that we both have in common, which for me, and before I get to that, I think we all have one thing in common, right? We all know this guy. And I can honestly tell you that I am physically here. Hear me well. I'm physically here because he stepped in at a point in my life where I questioned it. Because of him, thank you. Because of him, I get to see my beautiful wife again every day. And I get to tuck our children every night, and I get to see them every morning. Now, obviously, I don't want to, how long you know me by now? That's the thing, by the way. Let me make the connection here. It's interesting because I've heard most of these stories, and you share a lot in common. In fact, you guys were on the same side of the city at some point. And what's interesting is that one of the things that we shared in common growing up is what we never knew existed up until we reconnected when he launched his book. We both went to MBA, and again, for me, it was it's interesting to hear because he pretty much had to become somebody completely different from just between zip codes, right? And for me, my story is in a way similar, but I had to do it internationally. And a lot of you guys talked about physical reactions, right? The stress that you feel. In fact, I'm probably that to its core. Anytime I feel uncomfortable, I feel like I want to react physically. And it wasn't up until I started reading his book why I began even to care about understanding why I was like that. Most of the childhood that I remember here, going from a third world country, I was born and raised in Ecuador, by the way. And I came from nothing, literally, what you see in TVs for the people that are sending money to help people down there, that's what my neighborhood was like for the longest time. Now, this is where it gets tricky. I remember always being happy and peaceful, though. Despite my circumstances, I just always remember being happy and peaceful. When I was placed here, I grew up in the Belmont area. You take somebody like me and my family and the way we look, at that time, in the early 90s, it wasn't welcoming. And then the next news I got is when I asked my mom, we used to travel quite a bit when I was, I think, 6 years old. But I always knew that I would go back to Ecuador. It wasn't until I was 11 years old, right when the MBA was about to start, 7th grade, when I realized we weren't going back. So I say all that because a lot of the triggers that we have physically, for me, that's when I realized it started then. My therapist, thanks to Reggie, by the way, who connected me with a wonderful therapist, helped me realize that I have extreme separation anxiety that is triggered because of what happened to me around that phase. And it makes just so much sense. So I know you asked, obviously, for me to share something about me, right, I guess. And right. And so I can honestly tell you that I resonated with every single person in here. And the only thing I will say is that I am mad because you didn't introduce me to John early enough. You and I have something very much in common, and I would like to connect with you, So for me, I'm just very grateful that Reggie was part of my life. In fact, one of the things that I do remember, Miss O'Connell, by the way, was our French teacher. Shout out. But one of the things that even she said after all this time, last time I saw you, I must have been 18 years old in French class. And the first thing that you said right there in front of Sharia was, I remember him being kind. And I remember, this is gonna mess me up right now because I remember along the way, I distinctly remember having to, and I talk about this in the podcast that I'm on. I talk about feeling like I was a chameleon. I constantly had to morph into whatever I needed to be at MBA, into whatever I needed to be after school sports, into whatever my family needed to be. At some point, you end up losing yourself. And much like you, all in the panel, I never really got to know myself until I left Vandy, too, by the way. I never really got to know myself until I became a father. I had to become a partner, a reliable partner. Probably my biggest growth has been because of the trauma that I had when I was that young. But again, things happen for a reason, and people come and go for reasons, for seasons. I don't know the exact quote there. It's leaving me. But you guys know it. Don't look at me like that. But Reggie is that person, and that is that one person. I mean, I could go for maybe 3 months without talking to you, but like we'll pick up a phone and it'll just be like he never left me. And it's just been an incredible journey that I think we all need to be truly grateful for the work that he does, because I know that he doesn't give himself probably the credit that he truly deserves. But I literally owe you a big one, probably in my life, because you were there when nobody else was.
I'm gonna let them have their moment, but what's so funny about that is, and I know I said dates for a specific reason, but when I lost my soul brother, it was in June of 20 of this year. I met Reggie in April of this year-ish. He spoke on my panel in May, and I had no idea that next month I was gonna lose somebody as close as I did. And he has not left me since I've met him, and he has filled that space. Not to say he has replaced him, because I'm going to be very clear. That man, that soul brother of mine is irreplaceable. But this man right here, the shoes that he feel, that weight that he holds, you just heard that man speak about him. He has filled a space in my life, and it's a platonic spiritual connection that I can't even explain, but I had no idea that gaining him in that season after I lost someone, or not even knowing that I was going to lose someone, I didn't know how impactful that would be. So for him to speak on my panel in May of this year, and I'm here 3-4 months later speaking on his panel, like, I mean, I don't know if y'all felt that, but that is impactful. And that I already know that was divinity, alignment. And it was very intentional by Most High. And so I'm going to publicly give you your flowers. But he already noticed this man, God.
Standing ovation, man, for my guy, Reggie. Come on, man. Come on, y'all. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, man. Come on, man. Soak this moment in, baby. Soak this moment in, baby. Come on. Come on, man. Reggie Ford. You that dude, man. You that dude, man. You that dude, man. You that dude, man. You that dude, bro. You that guy, man.
Living in purpose.
That wasn't what we were supposed to be doing.
Yeah, you deserve it though, cuz. You deserve it. You deserve it. More than that. Your blessing's still on the way for the work you done done. I don't think you realize how many lives you saved, man. You know, I say cuz to him, you know, the neighborhood we grew up in was kind of mixed gang-wise. So he was a lot closer to the blue side. I was a lot closer to the red side. And I didn't get to grow up saying cuz. You know what I mean? So I call that man cuz all the time. We ain't related, but we might as well be brothers. Like I told you, I gained a brother when I lost my brother, and he been there ever since. You know what I mean? So he is that dude. Yeah, cuz, yeah. Feel it. Thank you, cuz.
He probably didn't know what he was doing when he asked us that question.
He tried to get us,
He
right?
didn't, he didn't know what he was doing. It was like,
Oh, man. Dolph, you said you wanted to say something.
yeah, let's go ahead and pivot.
What's been the biggest thing in forgiving yourself and having grace for the things that you've experienced that were out of your control, or maybe have been in your control, but what was one of those challenges and the things you did to forgive yourself and show yourself grace?
That is so heavy. We supposed to be wrapping up.
Sound like we got to do a round two, huh?
So,
What
I
y'all
guess
think?
I'll be honest.
I think so.
You got it, Trevor.
Go ahead.
Go again. I'll follow. I'll piggyback off.
I was just about to say I'm in the same boat. I don't think I figured it out. You know, I just had a day yesterday, probably one of them days where I'm looking at myself and like just not feeling myself, right? Not feeling the last 4 years. Like my life is completely different. And like I said, my daughter, she always asks, Daddy, how was your day? And I'm very honest with her. I said, I started off a little bad. Why was it bad? I was a little sad. And she said, what, you missed your brother? And I was like, she's so honest, but she knows because she experienced my brother. And it was one of the moments where something that would have crushed me 4 years ago, I laughed. I busted out laughing. You know what I mean? And I said, nah, boo, that wasn't what it was. I just wasn't having one of my best days when I looked in the mirror. You know, she gave me a hug. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that, but I haven't figured it out, man. I'm still trying to figure that out. You know what I mean?
I think for me, it's that's a very good question, and I don't think there's a right answer for it. But I think one of the things I can say is every experience is a good experience, right? Good or bad, you can always learn from that experience. The only thing you can't control is waking up, right? So once you're able to wake up, you can kind of dictate how that's going to be. You can have a worse day, but as long as you know the day after that, you remembered what you did and how you can make it better the next day. That's how I learned to forgive myself, right? And also, I learned from my son. At 2 years old, he was asking me a lot of questions. I guess I can look up now. He was asking me a lot of questions, and I think he saw my expression, that I was pretty much tired of the questions. And his response back to me was, "Daddy, it's just a conversation." At 2. And that's one of the things I use quite a bit now, because nothing in this world happens without a conversation. We're sitting in front of you lovely people. You're sitting in front of this great guy because of a conversation. So if we can always remember to change the world, if you have a conversation, it's definitely possible.
I gotta say something. I know we gotta wrap up, but I'm glad that you asked that question, because as you can hear, it's a very well needed question. But I also just looked at a really good friend of mine, and it made me think of an answer. Everything is perspective. There is no right, there is no wrong. We can look at the same exact thing and still see two totally different things, right? So showing ourselves grace in situations when there is no right or wrong is just all about just showing grace, right? So in that, when we forgive ourselves, it's for us. And when we forgive other people, it's for us. Everything is perspective, right? And most times forgiveness is solely for, all the time, forgiveness is for yourself. Grace is for yourself, and also for the other person or thing or whatever that is that you're needing to forgive. And it's just all about perspective, and it's all about learning how to show up in spaces and places when you may not understand why or how to, right? And so I think one of the most important things of forgiveness and grace is just understanding perspective and just being okay with the ebbs and flow, because no matter what, however way you look at it, there's no right or there's no wrong. So if you did do something that you need to forgive yourself from, it's a learning moment, right? We all hear that. Oh, it's just a loss is not a loss, it's a learning moment or opportunity for growth, right? So perspective.
And I'm gonna be real quick. That's a beautiful answer. You did the best that you could with what you knew and what you had at that time. And you're human. And the fact that you're a human allows you to give yourself that grace, because you were either doing what you learned and what you knew with the environment, the education, the learning, the modeling that you had in front of you, or you were trying to survive. And we try to survive a lot of times, and that doesn't always look like a fight against somebody or whatever. It looks like emotion a lot of times. And whatever that was, it was trying to protect you and keep you alive, and you are human. And so heal those parts that were needing to be kept alive. Heal those parts that you feel may be wounded, and learn to love and forgive yourself because you deserve it.
In life is a book, right? No one wants a straight black and white book. Life is color. So understand, life in your life is color. That makes you unique. So just like Reggie said, everything you do, absorb it and learn from it.
All right, real quick, can y'all shout out y'all socials or how people can connect with y'all?
Yeah, so I am Bonna. I have my personal page is Love Bonna Bae, so LOVEBONNA BAE. My brand Purpose Lit's page is purpose.lit, and then also my website is purposelit.com.
Mine is Village Culture with a K, of course. Social media, same, Village Culture. Website is the same. Facebook is the same as well. And one thing I did not say earlier, so we bring a child on twice a month until they graduate high school. So all of this right here is something that we're going to absorb, and we're going to also give to the kids. So please follow us. Please donate. We need you.
So my name is Maryam, and my mental health practice is I Am Well Consulting, and so it's iamwellconsulting.com. I Am Well Consulting on all social media platforms.
You can find us on Google. Search up Black Men, VENTTOO. I got cards. I got a digital card. Whatever you need on a serious note, come tap in with me or my dad, who's in the audience as well. Let me preface this. Because our name is Black Men Vent 2 does not mean we discredit any other race, origin, ethnicity, or anything in between. We've had black men, we've had black women, we've had white men. We'll accept anybody that's willing to tell their story. How many countries? 47.
47.
47 countries.
45, 47.
All right. And I am Quez Cantrell. The easiest way to find me is through my website, QuezCan, QuezCan.com, and that's got a link to everything. Even if you search Google Quez Cantrell, you'll see my Instagram, which is Motivated Quez, but I hate saying it out loud because it's spelled weird. So if you see MOE_Tivated Quiz, then that's me. But man, I gotta change that, man. I get tired of doing that. I swear I do. But I love the name. It's got so much meaning to me. You know what I mean? But
Don't change.
don't change it. No, don't change it. All right. Since y'all said it, y'all said it. Man, I like that. I gotta stop shrinking no longer in my thinking. Thank you. Shrinking no longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
But yeah, QuezCan.com, got a link to everything, some merch, all the music. You know, I think that if you from here or if you've seen the change here, I tell the story of Nashville from our perspective. And I don't know any person that knows the story of Nashville being black that has listened to my music that doesn't say that it resonates. You know, so I think that if you love music, good music, if you don't mind a little cussing here and there, you're gonna love me.
You will. You will. And I can be found everywhere. Reggie D Ford. Reggie D Ford. Instagram, socials, .com, all that. So, but I want to give a huge shout out, one, to y'all. Y'all give it up for yourselves for staying out here and doing this with us. But again, y'all could have been anywhere tonight and y'all chose to be here. So for that, I'm truly grateful. I want to shout out All People Coffee for this beautiful space that we're in. And then Soul Creative Collective, they are y'all come up here. Y'all come up here. These are the masterminds behind curating so many safe spaces for us to express ourselves. And I just want them to announce what they do and who they are.
Yeah, can y'all hear me? Will? Okay, cool. My name is Sinclair. I'm the founder of Soul Creative Collective. Share mics, yeah.
My name is Johnanthon Davis, and I'm the co-founder of Soul Creative Collective.
Yes, and we are a 501c3 creative nonprofit here in town. We've been around for about 2 years. We were created right here in this very coffee shop. We provide safe spaces for BIPOC creatives by the means of collaboration, access, and education. So we've been here for about 5 months doing a residency at the shop, and this is our very last event, so give it up for y'all. This has been great. I was back there fighting back tears, so yeah. So we see a lot of new faces. Raise your hand if this is your very first Soul event. Wow, welcome. You're a part of the family now. You can find us on social media by scanning the QR code right over there. We really appreciate y'all for coming out tonight. Thank you so much for the collaboration and partnership tonight. That was amazing. We hope y'all have been fed. We hope you feel safe, welcome, valued, heard, all the things. We would love for y'all to connect with all the people in here tonight, but we do have to close down the shop. So yeah, do as you will with that information. Thank you so much.
Last thing, because that's my big brother, mentor and everything. I want to say I appreciate my dog over here doing this event. supporting us as a startup nonprofit too, man. That's a really big thing. I just want to say the first time I met Reggie, I was graduating from Vanderbilt, went into the NFL. You know what I'm saying? I was just leaving college. I didn't really know how my direction was, who was going to be important people in my life. But, you know, me and Reg met on business, but he eventually became like my big brother, somebody I could look up to, somebody I can get advice from, somebody who can help me stay on the right road. Even when I transitioned from the NFL to what I'm doing right now, he was one of the most important people in my life that helped me to make that transition. So I just want to make sure everybody gives love to Reggie.
Thank y'all. Y'all take care.
Thank you for joining us for another powerful episode of Vulnerability Muscle. I hope you found inspiration and valuable insights that resonate with you. If you're enjoying this journey of self-discovery and empowerment, there are a few ways you can support the podcast. First, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. If you've been moved by our conversations and the mission of redefining vulnerability, please consider leaving a review. Your feedback not only motivates us, but also helps others discover the podcast. Share your thoughts on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in. And don't forget to spread the word. Follow us on Instagram at Vulnerability Muscle for updates, and you can connect with me personally at Reggie D Ford on all platforms. Visit vulnerabilitymuscle.com for additional resources and upcoming episodes. And remember, embracing vulnerability is strength. Thanks for being a part of the journey. Until next time, stay empowered, stay vulnerable, and keep flexing that vulnerability muscle.